Hey guys, it's Mike here, and welcome to my power scaling series in which I'm going to be going through the entire Cell Saga of Dragon Ball Z from start to finish. If you guys are interested, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and enable all notifications, as well as hitting like and hyping this video up so that you'll be able to see every single one of these videos in this series right away when they come out. And in case that you missed some of the series along the way, make sure to check the end screen of this video when it's over so that you'll be able to in turn go to that playlist and see everything else leading up to this. Now, before we begin, I also wanted to tell you about my book series, The Children of Aman, beginning with the first book, Nemesis of the Absence, a story of thieves who band together in the name of vengeance, using the fundamental forces of creation wielded by the main character, Seraph, a speaker. And you get to see a lot of things such as action, adventure, fight scenes, romance, cool powers, and that much more along the way. So if you're interested, make sure to go down below in the description and get your own copy, physical or digital, today. But with that being said, let's get directly into scaling the Cell Saga. So later on we get into the explanation how Vegeta says that he wants to go even further beyond, not Super Saiyan 3, he doesn't know that's the thing yet, Super Saiyan, and ascend to a level that nobody else thought was possible, obviously, especially Trunks because he's dope. But anyway, we do go on to see later, Goku shows up. And here's another thing that a lot of people, you know, they tend to often, especially Goku fans who think he could beat everybody on his own somehow, especially the ones who wrote Sparking Zero, who think that he could beat all the androids and Cell back to back without ever going in the chamber. I don't know what they were smoking when they wrote that. And they animated and programmed that what if. But Goku says that he had heard and sensed everything in his dreams, you know, with his psychic powers they barely ever uses, and that he says that if Vegeta can't beat them right now, then I won't be able to either. Again, this is more proof that Vegeta is stronger than Goku, or at the very least that they're not that far apart. Goku is not stronger than Vegeta in this arc up until the time where he emerges from the chamber. So keep that in mind. And the gap only gets bigger as we go on from here, because the two of them then go on to enter into the chamber in different pairs. We have Vegeta and Trunks who go in first. And then we have the fight between Piccolo and Android 17. So this is where I go on to explain, again, how strong I think that Piccolo really is. Because Android 17 isn't really that much stronger than Android 18. He definitely is stronger. It doesn't matter what the video games or anything else says. Yeah, I always get comments from people saying, what do you mean, Android 18? I thought she was stronger. She had all the same powers and blah, blah. No, they specifically say right here in the manga that Android 18 is weaker than Android 17, and she has been suppressed and her power has been reduced in order to make it to where she is easier to control than Android 17. And so he is the stronger of the two twins in that case. But even despite that, and despite the fact that based on just like, let's say a power level and power output, I would say that Piccolo is stronger than 17. I don't think that it's by a significant degree that he is stronger. It's more that his energy output is to the degree where he has these giant attacks like the Hell Zone grenade that he uses right here, where he would have theoretically killed 17 if he didn't have his barrier. But not just that, when the two of them are really going all out, 17, you know, starts to fight more hand to hand with Piccolo and starts to truly try as hard as he can. Well, we see that they're not that different in terms of their strength. They seem relatively matched. Piccolo is punching at 17. You know, 17 can dodge his attacks. Piccolo is taking more blows, but at the same time, again, tying into the idea that Dr. Gero didn't necessarily imbue them with the ability to control energy as much as these fighters can, we do have it where his energy output and his punches aren't quite as good as Piccolo's. Piccolo can endure them more easily, but it doesn't really matter because over time we do see that Piccolo, despite the fact that him and 17 can kind of hit each other and, you know, like go back and forth and they're relatively even, Piccolo's power is going down over time due to the fact that he does not have infinite stamina, just like 17 does. Even though 17 does have some moments where it looks like he might be kind of slightly winded, especially in the anime, that's just sucking air. He still has the same amount of fight in him that he did when he first started, and he could just keep going. He still is a human physically with augmentation, so he might still breathe more, but he could still run infinitely far and everything. It's not like his power is going down or his stamina. Only Piccolo's is going down more and more and more over time, and so it then becomes a question of, could Piccolo have ever actually won here? Personally, I would say that yes, if he used an attack that he uses shortly after this. Again, I would say that because 17 isn't that much stronger than 18, maybe like 20% more to give him the edge, but still not like gigantically different, that would mean that Piccolo is theoretically about, let's say 20 to 50% stronger than Super Saiyan Vegeta would have been, because after all, Vegeta was weaker than 18. So let's say that she was 20% stronger than him. If 17 is 20% stronger than 18, then that would mean that, again, at that point in time, Piccolo would have to be in that range as well, making him somewhere around, 40 to 50% higher than the power of Piccolo, higher than the power of Vegeta, the one who possesses, I'm just going to keep doing this because it's fun, Vegeta's technique. Thank you, Lonely's Archives, for making that joke in the first place. And so we keep saying that in this case, I don't think that Piccolo was several times stronger. And I also think that the kind of idea that a lot of Dragon Ball fans have, that somebody has to be multiple times stronger than somebody to be like incomprehensibly strong and like, oh my God, how is this guy? Oh my Beerus, oh my Kami, how is this guy so much stronger? I can't believe it. It's like, no, Vegeta trained insanely hard to the point to where like he couldn't even believe it anymore, that he like only broke his wall and his limits after training 300 times gravity for 3 freaking years and pushing himself to near death constantly. He only finally broke through everything by snapping and going Super Saiyan, and then Piccolo and the androids are stronger. Of course, that's like unbelievable to him and shatters his pride. It doesn't mean like that they're 10 times stronger than him or whatever have you. It just means that somebody is stronger than, like, imagine if you work your whole life and you bench 500 pounds and then some big dude walks up and benches 6, like my brain blew up. That's basically what's happening there. That's, again, why I tend to often lean more in like the direction of like being a little bit more conservative with my power scaling. I'm from the school of space Austrian economics, but either way, Cell shows up, and he at this point can just wreck both of them. He powers up. In the anime, we have that awesome scene where he has the flaming aura with like the skulls, the ghosts coming out of it, the ghouls. Oh, spooky, like Halloween coming up. And he basically looks like a Super Saiyan here with his aura. So you could argue that Cell basically achieved his Super Saiyan genes or whatever. I don't think he got 50 times stronger, but he got so much more powerful that Piccolo is like shaking in his little hobo shoes, whatever he's wearing, his little boots. And at this point, well, he goes on and he's just so much stronger than Android 17, and he's just wrecking him. And Piccolo can hit him again when he's caught off guard, and even seemingly draw blood. He is wiping his face, which usually is an indicator of that. But even then, it's irrelevant, because what do we see right here? Piccolo goes to charge up the attack that I think he could have beaten Android 17 with, even with his barrier, which is the light grenade. We have the Hell Zone grenade with the little mini attacks that went from him at all angles and would have killed 17 without the barrier. And then we have the Hell Zone grenade. This is basically Piccolo dumping as much energy as he can into a single attack, a concentrated one, so he doesn't just blow up the planet and like, Mars and Venus and everything else at the same time, whatever. Depends on, I guess, the solar alignment, whatever. And fires it right here. Awesome attack. And we see that 17 jumps out of the way. So this again tells me that Piccolo, even if he has like an equivalent power level, even with like normal strikes and such that 17 would have with his, short burst ability, that his firing output with his big, strong energy blasts is greater than whatever 17 can defend, including with his force field. I'd say that 17's force field is probably around the regular durability of 17, maybe a little bit higher. It's just that he outputs it to a degree to where he will take 0 damage if you can't break through it. And we saw in the Tournament of Power, if you want to include super scaling in your own larger power scaling, if you disagree with me about the fact that they don't add up and line up necessarily, and say that, somebody could just punch through it if they're strong enough. And in this case, I would agree, because he jumped instead of using the power shield. Even Bobbity in the next arc uses his barrier when Boo blows himself up. That's a whole other thing. He uses the barrier at different points, right? So either way, this shows that Cell is so much above Piccolo and 17. Again, if Piccolo fired a full power blast at the very start of the fight, you kind of wonder if maybe it actually would have done something to Cell here. But the fact that Cell takes 0 damage, that shows to me that he's way more than just like 20% higher than Piccolo here. So that becomes a question of just how strong actually is Cell then? Did Cell become twice as strong as Piccolo? According to one of the Daizenshus, for instance, if you want to count guides in your particular power scaling, if I remember correctly, it says something along the lines of how you need to be about twice as strong as your opponent to completely tank with 0 damage or effort somebody's attacks or blasts. You could argue that, but I don't think that, again, it would necessarily make the most sense for Cell to have absorbed like another city or two and is suddenly stronger by twice as much as Piccolo and 17. So that comes down to your own scaling. Does Cell have a power level now of like 500 million, 600, 700, like 2 billion, whatever you want to scale at this point? I think that this is where things start to become a little bit trickier if you want to actually use numbers, because then of course, not only is he way stronger than 17 and Piccolo and can wreck them when they have like high 300 millions power level, but then he absorbs the other androids into him. So we could argue perhaps that upper hundreds of millions for Cell in his power level right now, at least mid power levels, depending upon what you would equate that to, and fatigue levels of Piccolo with the blast and so on. But Android 16 shows up, and 16, according to his own words that he had just told to 18, is equal in power to Cell. And he shows this. He is going back and forth with Cell, catches him off guard, but then the two of them, they're headbutting each other, they're pushing back and forth. Cell tries to absorb him, but obviously he can't because 16 is entirely mechanical. Aside from maybe his skin, you could argue that it's like a T-800 where he has living tissue over a metal endoskeleton. But either way, 16 actually gets the better of Cell, where he's able to rip his tail off. And then Cell uses regeneration, which would get rid of a little bit of energy, but he says it's barely anything because it's just his tail. He is part lizard after all, right? So we see Cell actually looks like he powers up even more. He wasn't going full power and taking everything totally seriously. And then he starts to dodge more, hit more to 16. But again, 16 gets the advantage. Going back to that, we see 16 bleeding from his lip. So once again, I kind of view it as basically he's like a T-800 with even more power, which is hard. He's stronger than Arnold already based on him, right? And then he's able to, again, get the better of Cell with his attacks, slam him down to the ground and blast him. So I think that personally 16 would have been able to beat Cell if the fight dragged on. Cell might have better techniques, but the power of 16 is like the others of 17 and 18. He has infinite energy, which we were told when he first showed up in the story a couple parts ago. When he first emerges, 18 is looking over at him when they are in the Dr. Giroux's laboratory, which you'll see very shortly. And she says, is this also an infinite energy model? And of course, that is the implication that 16 himself is in fact an infinite energy model. So I think that 16 would have won if he continued to fight against Cell, but 17 was stupid, like most Dragon Ball villains. And he's like, oh, that's fine. We'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And so 17 came up, or Cell came up behind him, absorbed him, and added his power to himself and got unlimited power. Well, not really, because then he gets wrecked by Vegeta. But this is where he becomes semi-perfect Cell, kind of halfway to perfect and halfway to not. And this is where his power goes, again, way higher. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to stay tuned for the next episode of this power scaling series of the Cell Saga. Also, get your own copy today of my first book, Nemesis of the Absence, the first in the Children of Mon series, because of course, as I always say, stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future. Trunks. Future Trunks.
And you better subscribe!